pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call this meeting of the Fairfield Town Council to order. First order of business is public announcements. Dog licenses expired on December 31st. To avoid the state-mandated $25 late fee, registrations must occur by January 31st. Proof of rabies vaccination is required at the time of registration. And third quarter property taxes are due Friday, February 2nd, 2019. Our second order of business is public hearings. There are no public hearings listed, so we will move on to our third order of business, which is public comments. Members of the public may speak to the council on any item or reserve the right to speak on a specific item that is on the meeting agenda when the item is addressed. Are there any public comments? Seeing none, I'll move on to the fourth order of business, which is reports from staff and committees. And we'll begin with the town manager's report.
So on October 10th, I attended the Sustainment Coalition Directors Meeting. Did I just say October? January 10th. January 15th was the KV-COG Board of Directors meeting. The 16th, I actually met with Tim Beals, the Executive Director for Delta Ambulance, for a tour of their Waterville facility and to discuss ambulance services within the region. On the 18th, I attended the First Park Marketing Committee meeting. I wanted to let you know, the council, we've experienced a large uptick in scam emails at all of our fairfieldsme.com emails throughout all of our departments. They're actually happening all over the state in multiple municipalities. So because your council email address has that ending prefix, you may also see these scam emails. Oftentimes they're coming in from folks whose name and email address actually is one of your contacts. They will sometimes say that there's an invoice attached for you to print off for services. Just be very, very careful when you get an email that has any attachments associated with it. They are definitely scams. Oftentimes you can't block them. You have to actually physically delete them. You try to block them and it just tells you the email address that they originated at does not exist. So just please use caution just in case.
I got 10 phone calls today telling me that my social security number had been suspended because there was strange activity going on.
Yeah, we're getting emails that are coming from known members of that we work with the FBI, people that we actually do business with but hadn't done business with recently. Their emails look completely legit. So if you have any questions, contact that person ahead of time before you open anything. So that's it for me. It appears our intern is actually not here, so we can move on. I spoke with her yesterday. I'm not really sure. So
Okay. Are there any other committee reports?
nobody else has met other than the budget committee who just met prior to this meeting. So.
All right. So seeing none, we'll move on to the fifth order of business, to waive the reading of and accept the minutes as printed or amended for meeting number 2019-01 held on January 9th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
So motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes? Any opposed? Any abstain? And that carries. The sixth order of business, treasurer's warrant, to approve the treasurer's warrant number 44 in the amount of $209,123.14.
So moved.
Second.
The motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. Seventh order of business, to take action on the following items of business. Item 19-03, ordered that the town council hereby allow a 30-day buyback period for tax foreclosed property acquired by the town on January 18th, 2019, and that all outstanding debts shall be paid by Tuesday, February 19th, 2019 at 4:30 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? And I believe that there are 3 tax acquired
There
properties
are
at the moment?
3
Okay.
left out of the 75 notices that we sent
Yes.
out.
That was
Yeah.
good.
So, and everybody has had a one-on-one conversation. So the tax collector, treasurer's office is definitely
Busy.
on top of what's going on with these, so.
All right.
That's good.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? All abstaining? That carries. Item 19-04, order the town council hereby select recipients of the annual town report dedication.
So moved.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second to discuss this, I guess. Are there any nominations?
I would like to nominate Doug Matthews.
All right, so nomination, is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, nominations are closed, and we will move on to discussion of the nomination. Is there any discussion?
No, Doug has passed away earlier this year, and he was heavily involved within with the PAL, coached PAL. He was on the Hockey Boosters Club quite a bit and participated in a lot of the town sports and did a lot of stuff for it. He was also a guard at Hutamaki too, but that's immaterial. But, you know, just did a lot of stuff for the town and a lot of volunteer work and stuff.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? That carries. Order that the town council hereby adopt the council goals and standards for 2019.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? That carries. Item number 19-06, order that the town council hereby appoints a representative for the MSAD number 49 Crawford Fund Committee.
I nominate Peter.
Is there a second? Without a second, that nomination fails. Is there another nomination? Without hearing any further nominations, I'm going to table this, and we'll bring it up as a workshop item to discuss it when we don't have to make formal nominations and motions, and we might bring this back off the table after that discussion if we resolve this issue at that time. With that, I'll move on to item number 19-07, that the town council hereby schedules a special meeting of the Fairfield Town Council to be held in the council chambers for the purpose of reviewing and discussing the draft fiscal year 2019 budget on Saturday, February 23rd, 2019 at 8 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstaining? That motion carries. So we'll now move on to our 8th order of business, which is the council workshop and other business. And the first order of business is to discuss the budget for fiscal year 2019.
So you were presented this evening with your copies of the entire budget, a budget overview sheet. Your larger packet is all of the letters from the nonprofit organizations. Remember in your budget where they are listed, the spreadsheet they are listed on, the number that is in there is their actual requests, and then council will determine what you will actually provide them with. And also you have a small ringed binder, multi-ringed plastic from the police department.
Yep.
There's a discussion in there the proposal about changing the way the staffing structure is in there, which has essentially been agreed to. The issue is that it does come with a significant change to the budget, so therefore it's definitely going to require council approval and when everything goes to town meeting. But basically, the police department has 2 individuals that are retiring this year. We are looking to change the dispatch position to a patrol dispatch position. And so instead of someone who would be exclusively just in the office 40 hours a week, this individual would also be able to go out and patrol when there is a need, high volume of calls, or we need coverage. So it is a change in its structure, and does have some changes to the budget because patrol officers, as per the union contract, receive a specific wage, which is
benefits.
slightly higher than what the dispatch wage is. So you have that piece, which is in addition to what we would normally provide you with. There is not a letter. Usually there's a cover letter telling you where the minor changes are throughout the budget. However, every budget has so many changes within it this year that the letter would have been as big as your budget. So you will notice as you go through it that there are a substantial number of changes. Most of them are associated with the 5 retirements that we have coming up throughout the spring. A lot of our folks that are retiring currently are budgeted at having single coverage insurance. Because it is unknown who would be hired to fulfill those positions, we have to budget like it's a family plan, as well as the fact that we have normal insurance coverage increases, some increases in some longevity pay and some other pieces because of our union contracts. But for the most part, the budget itself, really, other than the big changes in the police department, is unchanged, other than our normal increases due to regular cost of living and changes. The one good thing that I'm very happy to report this year is that with our audit for 2018, our undesignated fund balance is in a position where we will be able to use undesignated fund balance to cover any increases within the budget, knowing that we have more than the 3 months that is recommended for us to have on hand at all times. So you'll notice a change in there this year for the revenue. Instead of the normal $250,000, it's $400,000 for the undesignated fund balance. We also have another big change in the revenue you'll see is the MDEA offset. One of our officers has recently been approved to be a Maine DEA agent. They actually will remain with us. They stay in-house. They still work for us, but also the state, and then their wages and salaries and benefits are covered 100% through the state of Maine. So that comes through on the other side. We still have to budget for that individual. You'll see those lines, but there's a revenue that will offset all their expenses. So if you have any questions before your budget meeting, again, please do not hesitate to contact me. We'll make sure that we'll get you those answers. The staff will be set up. Now that you've set your time, the staff will be set up according to years past. They'll be on a half-hour schedule where they'll come in, you'll be able to meet and greet and ask questions.
We decide whether it was going to be at the town office or here,
So you did not do that.
and we need to.
Last year, we had had a conversation, I think, about the fact that it should be here because it's open to the public.
As a,
And
just
it's
a
much-
point of order, the motion as read and approved actually specifies that the meeting will be held in council chamber.
Oh, did it say, I'm sorry. Okay, so it will be right here.
Good.
Yeah,
because
which is where it should
It's
be.
roomier anyway.
Yep, it's where it should be.
Too tiny over there to be doing that.
So-
So it's all good.
Other than that, but the budget itself overall is not, it's not up by very much at all. So
No, we're doing good.
we are.
Doing good.
Is there any further discussion for the, on the fiscal year 2019 budget? All right. I do want to move on to consider the question of the Crawford Fund Committee. I'm going to add this in as under the 8th order of business as an additional item, since we have now been unable to resolve this question in 2 rounds of the regular business. Open it up to an informal discussion. The town manager had prepared a memo and sent it to us regarding the issue of the Crawford Committee, concluding that there is not a the type of relationship between the council and the Crawford Committee that would create a conflict of interest for Mr. Lawrence or any other member of the council currently sitting who might be nominated. It's additionally not clear that there are any rules about how we
That was a position
how
that
we do this.
the council itself put out. It's not a mandatory or something that they set up. We just decided that we should have a council member on the Crawford because there was some problems with it several years ago that we had to take care of, so.
So I think at this time, it might be wise to consider, first of all, whether we want to continue making an appointment to the Crawford Committee, since there isn't a mandate that we do it. And secondly, whether we want to continue to send one counselor, or I think we could, without transgressing the open meetings law, we could send up to 2 at any given time without creating a problem. I think if we said 3 or more, then we run into the problem of having a quorum clearly discussing council business. So we can't do that. But beyond that, I think, is there any way that we can get past the logjam on this? Because it's...
I don't see any problem. Basically, what the position is from the council to the Crawford Fund is simply to give the council an explanation of what the Crawford Fund wants to spend and why they want to spend it, because that was the problems that we had back with town council had to approve, and there was lots of headbutting, et cetera. That was, what, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, but that's why we put a counselor on there, is to come back so that they could give us explanation of why they wanted that particular funding and what they needed. It's not rocket
And
science.
then the folks from the school do actually come to your council meeting when you are voting on what
Yeah.
you will be
Yeah.
appropriating to them.
I have one
During
question.
that
Does it
council
have to
meeting.
be a council member? Can it
That's
be
what we decided back then.
back then, but
It
does
is
it
not
have to
a,
be that way now, or can
I
that
think
be
it should be.
changed?
No, I
Because,
think it should be.
Because on the school board, there's one school board person on the Crawford Fund, and it's all school administrators, the principal, the band, and the other administrators, just one council person at the school board, that's it.
So there's no...
All of the 12 they have.
There's
Yes.
nothing in writing that says it has to be a council member, and
So it
the
doesn't have to
current
be.
council
right?
is not bound by the decisions of the previous council. However, historically, it has been a council member. Whoever it is would have to muster 3 votes, at least, from the council in order to be appointed. So I guess ultimately, it's whoever we would send, but it has been in the past. But there's not like a rule or a document or anything saying that it has to be.
Well, then, it doesn't have to be then, right? It can be somebody else that's sitting in this room, is what I'm saying, right?
It could be anybody. You could make it Michael Taylor if you wanted to, where he's had it before, but past precedence has been that it was council member. So what we'll have, just to back up a little bit, so the Crawford Fund policy that we have, which is where we went to see if this was listed at all, it is not there, and that the appointment does just happen to just appear in 2010 with no real rationale as to why, but it does make sense. So to know that there is a conduit that is a representative from the council that is going to that meeting, it's just helpful so that it creates efficiencies so that it's not multiple people having multiple conversations by having the one conduit piece to it. So there's been some housekeeping work we need to do in the Crawford Fund policy anyway, because it talks about some weird calculations, which we don't even really use anymore. And what we'd like to do is know that when that comes to you, that this piece gets defined so that there is a starting point and a place for us to go forward from. Because within our research, we found that because there's nothing that nothing that says legitimately what you have to do for your appointment, there is no conflict that can be created because you can do whatever you want.
So if I wanted to nominate you, Michelle Llewellyn, for that, then I could do that, couldn't I?
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm gonna do then. Because I tried everybody else last week and nothing happened, so
Okay, there's
I
a
nominate
motion,
that.
motion to nominate Michelle Flewelling. Is there a second? Without a second, that motion fails.
So there you go.
So, and ultimately, we have to deal with the Crawford issue at some point. They are going to come to us with a request, whether we participate in that process or not.
I have a question.
Yes,
Does anybody know whether Michael would be willing to do that or not?
I have no idea.
Our former chairman?
No idea.
I don't know.
There's a requirement that there's a date certain in February that I have to send a letter to the school. After that letter goes to the school, they then in turn schedule a meeting. That is the meeting in which the Crawford representative goes to. At that meeting, they receive the budget requests. That in turn comes to my office, gets disseminated to all of you. So you have a little bit more time to figure out how you're going to handle this.
Well, I nominated everybody in the room, 2 weeks ago, and none of them went through. So, and yours just failed. So, I don't see the forest through the trees, is what I'm trying to say. If he would be willing to do that, I would be willing to nominate him for that, because he's done it before and he knows what it's all about.
I think before we take this question sort of out of the room, is there, I'll just ask bluntly, is there support for Mr. Taylor to do this? Would there be a second, and would there be 3 votes for that? Because before we start fishing around for
I would.
outside applicants, I don't want to bring people here and say, let's have a vote on you, and then find out they're not going to get a second.
Right.
And-
No, I prefer a council member because I think it's better that we get a better relationship and we get our answers.
But all of those motions, all of those nominations went through 2 weeks ago. Everybody in this room, there was a nomination for, except I didn't nominate myself, which I thought, I'm not gonna do that. That would be, really, just not appropriate. But none of them went through. I went through everybody here in this room 2 weeks ago, and there was no seconds.
So I guess does the resolution of the conflict of interest issue change your mind on anything that?
No, it doesn't change my mind at all.
Then at least we know that. All right, then I will, unless there is further nomination, I'm going to table this item to our next meeting, and I suspect we'll continue tabling it to meetings until we can come to an agreement on that. With that, we'll move on to discussing other council business. Start with Mr. Lawrence. Do you have any other business?
I have no other business.
Mr. Bashotti?
No.
Ms. Busk?
No.
I have nothing else at this time either. So with that, at this time, the council will recess. Oh, sorry. Yes.
So our intern from Colby has arrived. Is there any chance that we can give her an opportunity to update you as we had planned at the head of the meeting?
I don't see why not. Is there any objection to hearing the intern's report?
Nope.
Then we will move back to, we'll reopen the 4th order of business and receive a report from our intern.
You're up. Right up here at the podium.
Great. I'm so sorry I'm late. I had issues getting a taxi here.
That's okay.
So I am Eleanor. I'm a junior at Colby College, majoring in environmental science and psychology, and I've been working with Michelle, as you know, this month, because we're starting the process of converting the streetlights to LEDs. And so just as an overview, the 2 options are to either continue leasing streetlights from Central Maine Power and to just replace them with LED streetlights, or to own our own streetlights. And my job was figuring out which would save the most money. And so I read over documentation that Michelle sent and identified major costs that go into streetlights, and then I did research on what the specific costs would be for Fairfield. And do you all have the handout that?
They will in just 1 minute.
Okay. I made a handout with some graphs just to show you the numbers that I found. And on both of the graphs, I compared what the prices for what we are currently leasing, what the prices would be if we did an LED lease from CMP, and what the prices would be if we owned the streetlights. And on the graph on the left, titled Breakdown of Cost, I just broke down all of the components that went into the total cost. So the first one is delivery and lease, and so that would be the yearly fee for renting the streetlights from CMP, and that only applies to the lease. The second one is the purchasing cost, which is just how much it costs to purchase all the parts of the streetlight, and that only applies to if we were to own the streetlights. The third is the energy cost, which is the same for both leasing and ownership, and that all just comes from CMP. The fourth is the maintenance cost, and this only applies to ownership because if we were to lease streetlights from CMP, the maintenance cost would be part of the yearly lease fee. And the property tax offset, which is the tax that CMP pays on all of the streetlights that they have here. And when I added up all the numbers, I made the graph on the right shows the totals of all of that. And what I found was that I added them all up for a 15-year timeline because that's how long the streetlights are supposed to last. And over 15 years, under the current CMP lease, we would pay about $870,000. For the LED CMP lease, we would pay about $648,000. And for ownership, we would pay about $229,000 over 15 years. So based on my calculations, if we were to own the streetlights, we would save about $419,000 compared to if we were to lease them over 15 years. And it's important to note that these are very rough calculations, and it's pretty easy to get into the weeds with the streetlights and a lot of other details that go into it. So I just wanted to mention some other things to be considered is the maintenance cost. I estimated by calling a few maintenance companies, but the problem is that theoretically there's no cost to maintaining streetlights. I just felt like over 15 years with 300 plus streetlights, there'd probably end up being some maintenance, so that should be budgeted in. And there's maintenance for possible emergency situations, which could be something like a car crashing into streetlights. So I don't know if there's data for that, but it would be worth looking into how common those type of car crashes are. And if they are common, then that'd be a good thing to budget in for the maintenance costs. Possible non-emergency situations are just issues with the light bulb going out, or the piece of the light that turns it on and off could malfunction. Or I don't know if Fairfield is planning to do any major road construction or road changes, but if you had to move the streetlights due to a big road change, that could cost money. The property tax offset is an important thing to look at. We're getting about $1,700 a year in tax revenue from CMP, and we'd have to make that up somehow. So it would just be important to be careful about who's going to take on that tax burden and make sure that it's not someone who's already struggling financially, or a group of people that's already struggling financially. Something that I didn't look into in detail was insurance. It's possible that we would need to get insurance for owning the streetlights, either for the streetlights themselves or for workers associated with the streetlights. And I thought it might be worth mentioning opportunity cost of waiting. So the LED technology could be better if we waited 5 years, but improvements in LEDs have slowed down, so I think that might be kind of a small opportunity cost. And then I thought it also might be worth mentioning smart lights, so we could potentially, those would track a lot of things that the streetlights do, notably how much energy the lights are using, so we could compare how much energy the lights are using to how much energy we're paying for to CMP. That could be useful, but also consider a relatively small opportunity cost as well. And I'm going to be spending the rest of the month making a first steps guide so that hopefully the work that I've done can help other municipalities in their decisions for LED streetlight conversions and will help other people save time. Thank you. Does
Thank
anyone
you
have
very
any
much.
questions or comments?
Does anybody have any questions for Eleanor?
No?
So her main goal was to simply look at the cost. As she mentioned, there are a lot of things that we'll be looking at as we're looking at doing potential for conversion. But she was simply looking at just the cost of should we stay in our current situation with CMP, should we use CMP and their LED conversion, or the ownership piece. So she's definitely on the right track, and it is showing, as with many municipalities, ownership simply does have a tendency to save money. When we started this process, we thought that we believe that there's a number of streetlights in a municipality in which it's not worth it to them to actually have ownership. Vassaboro, for instance, who doesn't really have a large public works department, has chosen to go ahead with CMP in their new contract and have them own and maintain and simply lease the lights. It was definitely worth it to them. We weren't sure where we were going to fall, so we're excited about the work that she has done and can't wait to see her final results.
Very good job,
Yeah,
thank you.
one of the
Thank
things I
you.
will mention though is on your automobile hitting the telephone pole, the automobile insurance
Oh, okay.
covers the cost of the pole.
Good to know. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, the next regular meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, February 13th at 2019. And at this time, the council will recess and sign all documents that require the signature of council members. Do I have a motion for recess?
So move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. The council is now in recess.